In the backwaters beyond fables and years, freedom is moving on.
I've just played a very beautiful game here at the Molasses Flood called The Flame in the Flood, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the art style and what's going into the environment of the game, because, you know, obviously that's a big part of it. Can you tell us first sort of what the sort of the overall vision for the art is?
Sure. So basically when we got together to form this team, we knew early on that we wanted to make a game with Scott LaClair's art style. He's the art director from BioShock and BioShock Infinite, and he has a very distinct illustrative style that he uses in his personal work. When he's painting, he has this crazy style that he uses that we all love, and we said, okay, don't know 100% of what we're making yet, but we want to make a game that looks like that, and that kind of evolved into what we did. So the way that we actually have gone about achieving that art style is by mostly him modeling and doing very painterly textures on those models, and creating this set of pieces that we've used to kind of craft the scenes and create the game. So he does a lot of the sort of the hero modeling that you see, and I'm kind of the engine guy. I create scenes in the world and sort of the environments that you see. Like, that's kind of my forte. And I also do the lighting and the atmosphere to kind of get the whole mood and the feeling that you're seeing.
So is it fair to say that this sort of the art of it is sort of more closer to the concept art that you'd have on BioShock than the actual sort of how the game looked? Or
yeah, I think that one of our goals was to make something that looked very stylized. And it's true, if you look at some of the concept pieces that Scott did back then, you can see closer ties to what we're trying to do in-game than sort of where BioShock went. That was a huge goal of ours. We're a small team. We want to make something that is not photorealistic, but we want to stand out by the style. So we've embraced his style, and we've gone, semi-low poly, but very illustrative, I would say.
So, and also, in this kind of game where sort of so much of the story is told through the environments and through the sort of the setting, I guess it's very important to sort of make sure that the player sort of observes these things through his playthroughs. Can you tell us a little bit about how you go about doing that?
Sure. So, the game is not a linear game, right? It's it comes together in pieces. There's a lot of randomness that happens. The river is procedural. The islands come together in parts as well. So what we have to do is create little scenes that may get pulled into the mix. And you're right. Like, we have to call out the certain key features of those scenes. There's a couple different ways that we do that. If there happens to be a signage element, maybe the material that's on the sign is contrasting with the rest of sort of the natural look of where it's sitting. So there's this contrast where you'll see something that way. Maybe we baked in some lighting or have some atmospheric effects that draw you in. Like, one technique I use a lot in the nighttime, I'll put fireflies that have actual lights around them that will highlight something that we might want you to see. Yeah.
A little touch that I really enjoyed seeing in the game is when you're going down river and it's getting dark and you see the wolf's eye peering at you from the island. I mean, there are a lot of little things like that that sort of just, they're there for flavor, I guess, but I really enjoy them. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, that came directly from Scott's concept art. He really likes this layering sort of look where there are foreground elements that are silhouetted, like the trees are very dark, and the background is contrasting to that. But then there are these red, very vibrant eyes that are that he painted in that just really pop, and you know, they don't just look cool. They're there to be sort of foreboding and remind you that this is the wilderness. It's a frightening place. You don't quite know what's lurking behind the shadows, but it's really there for mood and for style. Yeah, just to give us a very distinct look.
And I guess a big part of it is also sort of the look of the river and the feel of the river and sort of the currents and the color of the water and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit about what's gone into designing that?
So that's actually again coming from our concept art from Scott. That's sort of where we got our start on that. But there's a lot of really technical pieces that come into the mix. So work that like Damian and Bryn have done on the procedural river, using vector fields to make an actual current going down the river. That ties into the way that the materials are moving around. So, you know, they could go into a whole lot more detail than I could. If you look closely, you can see that the material is moving in a way that follows where the water is going. But, you know, it wouldn't have matched our game if we went very, like, realistic looking water. Like, we wanted to have something that was much more stylized and sort of a broad brushstroke of this is what water looks like in our world. So that's one layer, and you can really see that it's moving, and you can use that information to sort of make decisions about where you want to go. And then on top of that, we're layering a particle effect. So there are these ribbons that kind of go through the water that should highlight even more of like what direction the water is going. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.